Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. We begin on a rather sad note from some of the news coming in from Lagos. Reporting now that a small aircraft has crashed in the Oba Akran area in Ikeja, Lagos. Channels Television gathered that the event happened earlier today. With Lasema reporting that 4 persons, including the pilot, were on board the ill-fated copter and that they were all rescued alive and taken to a nearby hospital. The NEMA Zonal Coordinator for Southwest, Mr. Ibrahim Faniloye, says that though the identity of the operator of the helicopter was yet unknown, those on board were all rescued alive. First respondents in the incident, NEMA, Lasema, of all gathered at the site of the crash to look at what is happening, assess the situation, and begin rescue effort. The report we are following for you. A small aircraft crashed today in the Oba Akran area in Ikeja of Lagos State. And of course, we're following for you also what is happening in the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, which today judgment has been reserved in the petition submitted by Mr. Atiku Abubakar and Mr. Peter Obi today. Some of the political parties have filed their final addresses, are they called, and the 5-man panel led by Justice Aruna Samani has reserved judgment on the dates to be communicated to the parties. In court today, a former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, was physically present, and the petitioners in the Labour Party, the flag bearer of the LP, Mr. Peter Obi, are also physically present, including his running mate, Mr. Dati Baba Ahmed. It's the second day of the ministerial screening, and we've seen today Mr. Nasser El-Rufai, former Governor Dave Umahi, and a few others, including Mr. Wale Edun, a former commissioner in Lagos, also faced the screening process with the senators scrutinizing them for the jobs they have been presented. Some of the other persons that faced the scrutiny include Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, Mr. Wale Edun, Mr. Musa Danjiwa, Mr. Uche Nnaji, Ms. Stella Okotete, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, Mohammed Idris, Mr. Professor Ali Pate, Doris Uzoka Ekpedepe Ekpo, and Ms. Hanatu Musawa. The nation will be waiting for the final word from the Senate on the confirmation of those persons, and 28 of them who have appeared between yesterday and today. Now, the organized labor appears resolute in their plan on a planned protest, which is expected to take place tomorrow, Wednesday, the 2nd of August, 2023. And today, the federal government team and that of the organized labor met. But it doesn't look like there is a decision that was reached. They've not finalized the meeting, and we do understand that the Nigerian labor, or the organized labor, is reconsidering his move on a nationwide strike or protest. I'd like you to listen to the leaders of both teams, the Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, and the President of the TUC, Festus Osifo. Take a listen to them.
Basically, we laid out the plans and the interventions of Mr. President, as you all heard in his broadcast yesterday. We made it clear that this was just Mr. President's initial rollout and interventions, and that conversations will be ongoing as we go along. And we appealed to Labour. We did appeal to Labour to call up their protest for tomorrow. We found listening ears here, and they did agree that they all accepted that Mr. President's broadcast was a welcome development, and that they'll go back home to talk to the other leaders that are not present today. So we're hopeful that they will do the right thing and call off the strike tomorrow.
The government team told us that what the president has put on the table, it's more or less like a starting point and it's a baseline. So we, on our part, also said yes, that we would have been a bit surprised if that is everything that will be put forward, because for us, we felt that there are some gaps. For us, we felt that if the president has said that 1 trillion naira has been saved in the last 2 months, that what has been proposed is not far-reaching, and that for us, as part of the principle of negotiations, when anything is put on the table, you accept, but you push for more.
All right, then. You heard Mr. Femba Jabiamila, the one who led the federal government team, and Mr. Festo Sosifo on the side of the organized labor. Don't forget, the president yesterday gave a nationwide address. I'd like also to make a correction. My guest yesterday here mentioned 16 billion, which was not, 60 actually, which got a lot of people confused as to what exactly the figures were. So that stands corrected. But the president gave his speech yesterday and reeled out a long list of palliative measures to alleviate or cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy. How much will that go to help the poor, help the average Nigerian? In fact, when people say the poor, now it's not only the poor that is feeling the effect and the pinch of the removal of subsidy. Is what the president, what he said, is it enough to cushion the effect? The plan, is it concrete? Is it solid enough to help the Nigerian people who are feeling the pinch of all of this? And perhaps if Labour goes ahead with their planned protest and eventual strike, what are the possibilities? What are the potentials, the implications on the economy? Let's get to discuss some of these issues. I'm being joined tonight by two gentlemen to discuss and analyze this issue. A very prominent lawyer and the spokesperson of the PDP in the presidential campaign, Mr. Daniel Bwala. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
And perhaps one of the youngest presidential aspirants in the APC in 2023, Mr. Nicholas Felix. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's begin, Mr. Bwala. How do you assess the president's speech of yesterday? Vis-a-vis what happened and what the Labour is planning, what the federal government put forward to the Nigerian people. Do you think that is reasonably enough to meet the yearnings of the average person?
Well, from the scholastic point of view, I think the president's speech can be lauded by an average person when you look at how he itemized issues one after the other and then talk about the plans from the scholastic point of view. And the economists and people who value, let's say, intellectualism, they will quite appreciate that. But the speech of the president is in contradistinction with the realities on the ground. And it bears repeating that there was a flip-flop, policy flip-flop right from the beginning when the president announced the removal of subsidy before the very issues he discussed yesterday were to be implemented. Now, I read the speech. 70% of what you find in the speech are already contained in the manifesto. But this is not a period to talk about manifesto. This is a period for deliverables. Now, when the speech was given last night, even if you were a member of APC and celebrating that, and then you go to bed clapping your hands, what a wonderful speech. By the time you wake up in the morning, you won't see food on the table. You see, what the Nigerian people are facing now is not an issue of scholarly or scholastic conversation. It is like somebody has an emergency issue. When you run somebody to emergency unit of a hospital, the approach that the medical practitioners will give to the person in the emergency will be different from somebody who has just visited a GP, who will ask you questions and then begin to give advice. Somebody in emergency required what they call intervention. Now, some of the things, like most of the things I read in the speech, like the plan for the manufacturers, for the startups and everybody, these are plans that are conceived to have the effect from 6 months. There's even one that will start in July 2024. The people would have died before then. Now, When you put that on the side and then you look at what the labor people are asking, so if before the removal of subsidy, most of the things itemized in the speech were put in place, and then you come to remove subsidy, labor would have no excuse because then you would have agreed with them at some point. And I'm of the view that even if you don't agree with them, you can't say because you have not agreed with them, you are not taking steps. Go ahead and make your pronouncement of the increase of salary to the middle class people who are the workers, and then release the money. So let it be that the federal government has started implementing some of these palliatives, savings towards the good of the people. Come to think of it, Dr. Sheun, the Nigerian middle class, the workers, constitute less than 11% of the population. If you have a difficulty dealing with less than 11% of the population, what are you going to do to the underemployed, to the unemployed, to the totally ravaged and poverty-stricken people in the rural areas who at this moment cannot afford to listen to English? Now, someone said something that I felt quite fascinating, that if NEPA or federal government wants to tax you, even if you are in Antarctica, they will find you. But when it comes to government fulfilling the promise of a better life for the Nigerians, you'll find some of these bottlenecks. Now, the past administration, like if you put the speech of Mr. President yesterday and take the economic recovery growth plan of Osinbajo, the one that President Buhari has Osinbajo to do, they are the same. It is just that you are saying, we believe in social intervention. We are not going to do it the way they did. We are going to do it differently. But that is not what the people on ground are looking for. The transportation cost has gone up. Food price has gone up. Look at the extent to which crime is increased in the country. Today, I saw a video clip of people who were arrested, who are now doing a trade. They take somebody, a manhood of somebody. They are catching people. The crime is unprecedented. And to add injury to the salt, the president accepted a very big responsibility, the role to chair the ECOWAS. So you find that management of ECOWAS might end up being a distraction to the president's plan. I'm not saying he should jettison that, but all I'm trying to say is that what is on ground is quite enormous. Then who are the people to implement that? This, my friend, I was fascinated. I was in APC when he ran. He went for the ticket of the party. I needed to see a young person. He's not a minister. I don't know which state he comes from. I have listened to him over and over in television interview. Why can't smart brains like that be entrusted with responsibility and you're recycling governors who primarily are failure in their very state? They are even going to be a problem to you. So this is where I wish him well, but this is where I find it a bit difficult believing whether these plans can, because Financial Times London said before these things can start getting to shape in Nigeria, it will be around December.
6 months, yeah. Those are the permutations of some expert. But Mr. Felix, if you look at the analysis Mr. Bwala has brought on board, what are your views on the pains of the Nigerian people, what the president said, and the reality of the time?
Yeah, once again, thank you for having me. Before I dive into that, let me quickly
reject my offer.
No, I said I was going to do this when I appear in your show. During the ASU strike, I noticed you were one of the journalists, or if not the only one, who was very passionate. Almost every night you come out, you speak for them. And, I said to myself, I really thank you on behalf of the Nigeria students for standing up for them throughout the time. I actually spoke with the NAS president that they need to award you or make you one of the ambassadors for standing for them.
That's our job anyways. That's why we're here.
But you're not the only journalist in Nigeria. But not just your job, the passion at which you spoke. Yeah. It felt as if you were the one directly involved. I don't know if you are still in school and you were on strike then. But I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the Nigeria students for standing for them. Yes, looking at the speech of Mr. President, I watched it and I listened to it very keenly. I want people to understand that even though this is not trying to give any form of excuse, we're just 6 months into the administration. The president, a lot were handed over to him. The president is speaking and trying to let people know that we are working. We are doing something. The first thing that came, I believe what my dear brother here is saying, is talking about the immediate emergency needs, which is the palliatives. I'm really not a big fan of palliative. just because of the kind of system that we have. I don't trust that palliative we get to the people that really needs it. So that's why I'm not a big fan of palliative. As much as we're focusing on the immediate needs, I'm very excited seeing the president focusing on the long-term needs. For example, we talked about giving money to 12 million Nigerians, all of those things. And we talked about increasing of minimum wage. Are you aware that a lot of Nigerians are not working who earn salaries? Many are doing menial job, businesses that you don't need to increase their salary. So in as much as we're focusing on increasing salary, there are tons of barbers, mechanics, a lot of people who take transport every day who the increment of salary will not necessarily affect them. So while we focus on the immediate need, we have to focus on the long term. My most thing, what I'm looking forward to seeing, how do we get the price of fuel down? Forget all of this.
Can we get it down? Is it really realistic? Because we've been told that the market forces have taken over.
Yes.
And in that sense, I mean, it will be determined by those forces, including the global price of the product.
We can get the price of fuel down when we get our refineries to work. Please, just let me just quickly throw this in for, you as a great journalist and the rest of them. When the president is listening to you guys. The president is listening to Nigerians. But unfortunately, I notice we are not reporting, even the opposition parties, we are not reporting as if we want results. We are reporting just to criticize. We are reporting just to somehow see the president fail so that we'll say, we said it. We said don't vote for him. For example, when the palliative came, the president, they announced they're going to be giving, I think it was 8,000 naira to about 12 million Nigerians. And, people were angry. It's too small. It's not enough. After a while, the president decided to pull back and withdraw. I was expecting people to appreciate that. You say, why? That tells me, for somebody like me, that tells me the president is listening, is listening, whether on social media or is listening to news, or the people around him are telling him the truth. Because they could have gone and lied to the president and say Nigerians are celebrating, just like they do. When you are with the president, you praise him just to look good in his face. They could have lied that Nigerians are celebrating, Nigeria like what you're doing, but somebody told the president that Nigerians are not happy, this is not good enough. And the president withdrew and said, let's review it. To me, that is great. That is something we want to be seeing. Now, the next thing I was expecting to be seen on social media, to be seen on the news, now that the president has withdrawn the palliative of 8,000, we should tell him what we want. Is it that we want it to be 30 million Nigerians and 10,000? That's what we should be putting out there, not just to criticize without providing solution. The president is listening. Let's say what we want. The immediate palliative, I am not a big fan of it, I'll tell you the truth. I don't trust the system. During the NSAS, that's when we knew a lot of palliative. The Minister of Finance kept saying, the federal government has given this out. It sounded as if she was lying until we started you started breaking into warehouses and discovered all these palliative. Now you ask yourself, the federal government did their own part. This money can be released now. The question is, how much is going to get to the people? So let's focus on, rebuilding our refineries. If you ask me my own opinion, I see no reason why the government should be getting more money. This money should be channeled towards, our refineries for us to get there. But we are focusing too much on the palliative, increasing on salary. I think the Labour need to sit down. How do we get the price of
Mr. Felix,
down?
there is a dimension to this conversation, although the president has said he will intervene when necessary. And hopefully, when he hits the ground running with the proposition he brought on board yesterday, we'll see how this thing flows. But there is one critical aspect. The president said yesterday, and I like both of you, let's have some intellectual debate over this. The president said, 1 trillion naira has been saved. Mm-hmm. So the question is, where is that money? That's one. Okay. The other angle to it is, do you know that the monies that Nigerians are now paying for the original price or the real price of petrol is even more than the 1 trillion that has been saved? Because you would probably have paid more for petrol, paid more for milk, paid more for beverage, paid more for food, paid more for transportation in every aspect of your life. There are those, an expert who had come to say, Nigerians, in fact, since the removal of subsidy, Nigerians, not Nigeria as a country, yeah. Nigerians have in fact, spent about 5 trillion naira.
Yeah. Let me tell you this.
Federal government said, we saved 1 trillion, but Nigerians have coughed out 5 trillion naira. Now, this suffering and these more spendings, we go on. How do we immediately alleviate the suffering? Because the palliatives that the president reeled out yesterday, can he meet the today, tomorrow, or the next week conditions of Nigerians?
The point about the palliative, I agree with him. I am also not a fan of doling out of money. I've criticized it in the past. But you see, I never used the word palliative. I said intervention. You rush the person to intensive care unit. What he needs is intervention. Now look at it simply. The Middle East and the argument against the plan, because people believe there's no clear plan. The argument against it is that if you cannot deal with the problem of 11% of the population, what evidence do we have to believe that this aspect he talks about, the artisan, the entrepreneurs and the rest, you can deal with them? Now, look at it this way. Intervention. Abdul Salam, by an executive fiat, ordered increment of salary to federal workers to a certain amount. The dispute you are having with the trade union is that they are saying we want an increase to this max. You are saying I cannot afford this because the money we have cannot be sustained. Now, while you are doing the back and forth, we are saying this policy hurt the Nigerian people because you can simply say, if they say we need 200,000 as a minimum, and already people are getting 40, you can decide to make an order that 70,000 be paid to the federal workers. That man who works with government, has a wife, has a children, that impact will come directly to them. You talk about other artisans, mechanics, and the rest, if you want to help them. People who have small and medium enterprises have accounts with bank. Why don't you give an order, I say order, communication to the bank, to give you the data of all the people who are doing business and credit their account with an amount that is commensurable to what you intend to do. You see, the problem
like the U.S. government did.
Exactly. The problem we have is that
if you are registered as a citizen or as a citizen of the United States, you get those in the COVID era.
Yeah.
You get the money, individual and families too.
So we are saving. We are saving is the answer. We will do, and we are saving. These are the two.
But is it a good place that the president started yesterday?
Yes.
Do you think it's a good place?
Of course. I mean, it was exciting and comforting.
You mean the speech?
I mean, the point. Look, you have to start somewhere. So I'm asking that, is it a good point to start anyways?
If you look at the speech, it has to have a time for you to call it good. If you tell me, Boala, I want to make you rich, but what you intend to do is going to take effect from July next year. What if I die before then? But if you say, Boala, as you leave this studio, you go out, you are going to get 10 naira to help you. You see, you are addressing an immediate, get the point, immediate problem.
But we are coming back to the only immediate solution, like you are, is talking about is the same palliative, which you and I know this money will not get to the people. I do not trust that system that the money will get to the people. Let me come to the question.
So what would you propose?
Let me come. You see, this is where our NIN, I live in America for over 20 years. We have what they call Social Security, which are likened to NIN. NIN was a great idea. I think that's something that could have been used with your NIN number. Those that have an account would have been able to use that. But I don't know how functional that is. Number two, there are many little business people who don't have an account. The guy who buys my hair doesn't have an account. He has a barber shop. He has a barber shop. He has an account personally, but the business-wise doesn't have an account. So, that's the system we need to work on. And that's not going to take just 2 months to do. Let me come to the issue of Nigerians are spending more money. Not necessarily spending more money because the money we are spending just because of the hike. The money is not going back to the government. The president said we have saved 1 trillion. He didn't say we have saved and spent. So the money they have saved, of course, the allocation to the states has increased, which I said, if I was the president, I don't give these governments any money yet. Let's keep this money. Let's try to open our refineries. Until we start refining our product here, the government can increase salary to 100,000. I'm sorry, we're not going to get the solution because there are many people who don't work for the federal government. Many people are entrepreneurs who work for themselves. This increment of salary will not affect them positively. I'll tell the NLC to slow down their strike. Keep discussing, keep negotiating. Going out and just say you want to strike, there are no benefits to this. Again, I'll put it, this is just, I think, 64 days into the administration. A lot are happening already. We're not giving any form of excuse, but we're still trying to get used to the House. Before he became president, he was not receiving briefing. So in as much as you say you are so prepared, you are so ready, which he was ready, he was prepared, but when you take over office, there are so many classified information you begin to get.
There's one angle also. And when I said the question that I posed earlier about the 1 trillion naira, it's not a secret any longer. That is, NNPCL had said the money that federal government is supposed to give back because they were the sole importer of the product, the federal government has been failing in its duty to pay. The federal government has a lot of backlog and they fail to pay. So the 1 trillion naira, I'm not sure except the federal government comes forward to say, oh, we have been paying, but I mean, or we have the money. But the question is that the 1 trillion
is transparent.
But
if you didn't tell us yesterday there was 1 trillion,
the question
you and I would not have known.
that I posed is that people are asking, the 1 trillion naira, where is it? Is it kept in the central bank? But the reality is that is the 1 trillion naira existent somewhere? But the reality may be that the 1 trillion naira is non-existent.
Not even existent.
So I mean, let's go to another angle, which is the team that will get the job done. And we've seen the ministerial screening that is going on. And, it should be a grilling. And we're trying to analyze and look at what screening really means. The definition of screening. Is it a screening that we have seen in the last day? Or what exactly, in your own view, what the Senate has been doing? How do you assess it?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have legislative branch in this dispensation because
there is a 10th National Assembly.
I will explain. The essence of the 3 branches of government is to exercise independence for the good of the country. Now, the legislature is the co-equal branch with the executive. As a matter of fact, the very foundation of democracy started first with the legislature. It is the people in America, by their representatives, that came together, negotiated the country, and then decided to present election as a means by which leaders are going to be created. In other words, the legislative branch of the government is the hub of the country. They make laws for peace, order, and good government. Now, what we have now, we still have the legislative branch of government. Can you vouch for independence? I'll give you an example where the legislature in Nigeria, the legislative branch, are not up to their duty. Last week, you saw what happened with Emefiele. There are other issues for which they called for congressional hearing. Did they call for any hearing? That's not. Look at the screening process. You ask the right question. What do we mean by screening? Screening is supposed to be the period by which the legislative branch of government will inquire, will scrutinize, will interrogate those people that will be conferred with secrets and trust of the people. Because the executive branch would have done their own through the agencies like DSS. They screened you and approved them. But have you not seen in this screening, somebody finished primary school, and graduated at what age? It was a simulation. Somebody's certificate was missing. These are people you are going to be entrusting with these trillions to administer for the people. Now, there's somebody who was never in the legislative branch like Wike. He came to say, take a bow. Take a what? You're supposed to ask him. The question I even expect the National Assembly to ask, which is fundamental to the commonwealth of our people, whenever somebody appears, which is, we know is the problem inherent in the country, is whether you are being investigated by the anti-graft body. If you come as a governor in the United States Congress to be screened, first they start asking about the trust of the people from where you're coming from. Then they ask your suitability because you have not been designated with any role. So they are now looking at character and fitness. Character and fitness is checking your past, checking your present, checking your integrity. Have you awarded contract for which fraud was inferred? When you govern in your state, did you violate human rights? Because when we even spend time to say whether your degree is 2 credit or 3 credit, these are inconsequential issues. They are not going to be, all of them are not going to be ministers of education. But if somebody comes through that process with a fraud, you fail to disclose, there is no evidence that when that role is given to you, you are going to be transparent with the Nigerian people. Here is the problem that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has. You know, I know him personally. I wish him well. In fact, sometimes when I discuss issues on air and I send my wishes and ideas to him, people tend to think, you're supposed to be attacking him. That is the much I can tell you about the fact that I want him to succeed. But where is the problem? I honestly expected that Mr. President would have carefully selected individuals that are capable of giving the confidence to the people. There are certain...
The 28 people on that list, you don't think they are capable?
I don't think the people that you can trust, there are more than 6.
Really?
Yes.
Out of the 28?
I can vouch for Lateef Fabemi, SAN. Then you have some other new entrants, which, to be fair, you cannot, judge them when they have not been given opportunity. But those ones that have handled... How can somebody who was a minister, then he became a governor for 2 terms, and is going back to become a minister? Have you, when you finish your part 2 and went to part 3 and ended up graduating, did you come back to the university because you like the course that is being taught in part 2? It is repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience for somebody who has handled minister, becomes a governor twice, and come back to the ministry. And there are people in his state. Now, that's one with ministers. Then there are others who they were not ministers. They were, even if you want to reward politically. I came from APC. There are 1,001 credible and intelligent, capable hands that can do the job.
Yeah. Mr. Felix, we just have 60 seconds to break. But before we go on that break, your view on that process?
Now, first of all, I hope we are not blaming the president, because it's not the responsibility of the president to screen. That's for the Senate, because every little thing that happened now, the president gets the blame. The list was sent to the Senate for them to do their job. Of course, I was expecting more than what I saw.
Have they been doing their job from what you saw?
I mean, don't forget, in the Senate, you have those from PDP, you have those from Labour, and you have those from APC.
Nobody from PDP said anything.
We're saying the same thing. The list was sent to the Senate. The nominees came. It is their job to ask, ask the question. But the one I kind of liked yesterday was the one the Senate president was asking Imam, the lady, I know her personally. I was excited seeing the Senate president asking questions, and she was answering them, quite very well. Some of them spoke, but of course, we were expecting more. But don't forget, the Senate president said the screening continues. I guess this is just the one that is broadcast live, that the screening is going to continue, where documents are looked into. That's why you saw the other gentleman said, I'm going to bring my document. I don't know if we want them to come back with the document and start showing us again, but what got me a little bit settled was when the Senate president said, we're going to go in and, the screening continues. This is just probably for us to
do you think, as a Nigerian, that this is worth our while as a people? Does this give any credence to the fact that these are the lawmakers, Nigerian taxpayers, are paying their bills, and this is the kind of job they are meant to do? Are you proud of what they have done as a Nigerian, that these are lawmakers and they are supposed to be screening members of cabinet?
I think that's why conversations like this are good. I think that's why journalism, you guys are doing a good job by helping to check and balance. And I'm sure they are listening to let them know the next time a minister comes before you, do a better job than this. Of course, that's why we are called developing country. We can't be going backward. But I was expecting
those
more.
who have also asked the question, you have the CV, you have the list. Did you do your homework to plan the kind of question, intellectual questions, in a nation that is facing economic turmoil, security challenges, and people are facing you, and you are not able to ask questions
Can I quickly throw on the issue of Wike spoke? I didn't have the chance to watch all of them. I watched just a few. Wike spoke. If you want to ask me to be fair, when you say take a bow and go, for somebody like Wike, when you say take a bow and go, he's been in governance for a while. He spoke. I think a few questions.
Is for their lawmakers, that tradition usually.
But when we say that tradition.
But do you even think that tradition should even...
It should be there.
For someone who is going to... If you are going to employ the CEO of Microsoft, the CEO of Facebook, the CEO of Twitter, for example, are you going to ask a person to take a bow?
But don't forget, this
people
process...
will be handling the destinies of millions of Nigerians.
It is debatable. You're right. It is debatable. And this is something the National Assembly can look into and to change the culture. If you're giving a member of the Senate take a bow and go, I think it's fair enough to do the same to a two-term sitting governor. I would expect that if I was a sitting governor.
Because those who ask the question, how did those who became senators or members of House of Reps even get there anyway? Did they even have the capacity? But because they've been in the National Assembly, so they are asked to take a higher job, and they just take a bow and
everybody
without a test to their character.
Let me quickly. Everybody.
Do you know
take a bow and go concept
but
or principle is that we are not asking you too many questions.
No,
because
they were questions.
You are one of us.
Name,
just go.
Magu's name was submitted to the National Assembly for approval by the President. Department of State Services sent a message to the National Assembly. Based on their findings on security report, they do not think that Magu should be confirmed. Now, when we talk of you want the best for Nigeria. Let me be honest with everybody listening in Nigeria. Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not and can never say, I come to the government to hurt Nigerians. But you see, the executive branch in Section 5 lies with the president and those he appoints. You are vicariously liable for the incompetence of your appointees. That is why the process for getting these people should be proper.
Let me just, please, Mohammed, President Tinubu is not the type that will give them job and go and sit down. I can assure you, any one of the ministers who don't perform, I won't be surprised if before the next 1 year they are removed.
Before you recruit them in a proper way.
Yeah, so, but like I said, it's the job of the Senate to do that, not the president.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want Nigerians to have this feeling. Before we become a laughing stock in the Committee of Nations, we're not a joke. Our country is the largest community of black congregation in the whole of the world. We will become perhaps the third largest country in the world by projection in another few years. And we are here, we're talking about people who will be in charge of the lives and destinies of yet unborn, the 200 million and more Nigerians. Does they take a bow and go without proper scrutiny? These are the arguments that people are having. We'll come back to have more conversation about how serious governance should be in our nation, Nigeria. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. Well, as soon as we went on that break, the conversation continued here. I wish some of you were part of the conversation we were having here. But I'm reading now on the Twitter page of the Nigerian Labour Congress and say, the protest rally holds tomorrow. Nationwide forever, backward never. And they are rallying Nigerians. They say a day of nationwide protest rally tomorrow, 2nd August. Join and let your voice be heard. So it's looking like Labour is going ahead, NLC precisely is going ahead with its plan for the protest. And they said they will be gathering, starting from the Unity Fountain here in Abuja. And they're also asking the supporters and their members across the nation. Nicholas Felix and Daniel Boala, both gentlemen, have been speaking with us on the program tonight. Earlier today on the program, because we're looking at solutions to this problem, I had to invite into the studio a former Minister of Labour. Well, this Minister of Labour was the one who was the minister when the very, very notorious fuel subsidy removal protest ravaged this country. You remember in 2012, when President Jonathan came up and removed subsidy, the nation was agog. Protests everywhere. This man was a sitting Minister of Labour. He was, up until 2011, he was reappointed back into that cabinet. Mr. Emeka Wogu. He was a guest earlier on the program. I'd like you to listen to his own view about the planned protest of Labour. The kind of move that Labour wants to take tomorrow, they said they will go on the street. How do you think, there is no Minister of Labour at the moment, how do you think the government can handle it? Because with the pains and the groaning of many Nigerians now, adding nationwide protests and strike to it, it might decapacitate the economy, don't you think?
Well, from what I have read in the media and from what I've gathered, from people who are close to the system, is that government has engaged labor over this issue. So what I would advise both sides, government and labor, is to continue to engage in discussions to find a way out to stop this from not happening. And what I will advise labor, because labor is out to protect the weak. And who are the weak? These are the masses of the nation. like me and you and the Nigerian workers. So we are the people they want to really, protect. But going on strike will worsen the situation of most Nigerians because it will be the impact, the suddenness, and what it will impact on the economy will be negative and humongous. So I will appeal to Labour to please reconsider this notice they've given to government and engage in discussions and put to a halt this strike they intend to go embark on at the end of today. And again, I would say that discussion is better than, what they say is
better to Georgia
than to war. And President Tinubu has best intentions. I listened to that speech. He has put everything that will alleviate the masses and the suffering of the masses in terms of transportation, in terms of investment at the small, medium, and enterprises and the nano economy, business enterprises. So what remains now? And he mentioned it, that there will be a salary review and salary adjustment. So now that there is no labor minister on ground, the government is equally engaging. So, and that is a place that we need a minister to come in quickly.
Mr. Emeka Wogo, a former Minister of Labor who served under the former President Goodluck Jonathan. He was in the heat, in the very much in the midst of that crisis when fuel subsidy was removed. And you wonder, fuel subsidy was removed in 2012. There was introduction of Sure P. Where and how did subsidy creep back into our economy? And now we are talking about another removal of fuel subsidy. Oh, my dear country, Nigeria. Let's get back to the conversation, gentlemen. From what I gather here, Labour looks like they're going ahead tomorrow. In your view, Mr. Felix, where do we go from here? I mean, how impactful would that be, or the implication of a nationwide protest by the Labour?
I agree with him. You see, sometimes when I speak here, not just because I'm a party, party member, I speak the truth, what should be. I'm a pastor, not just a politician. I pastor a church here in Abuja. I have churches in America. So when I come on TV, politics will not turn me to who I'm not. He just said the truth. Well, let's be reasonable. This administration just came in. We don't even have a minister of labor yet. Who are you even discussing with? Just a few persons that a committee that the president put together to discuss. Number two, you are debating. This is democracy. The dialogue is still going on. The discussion is going on. You don't need to go on strike. Number three, who is the strike going to affect? The elite? They won't feel a pinch of it. So the people you are fighting for, you still want to go and punish them. That's exactly what you're doing. If the government, if they are not discussing, if they are not bringing forth your demands, then I will understand the importance of going on strike. They said the minimum wages be reviewed. Again, the minimum wage are for those who are working. What happened to the barbers? What happened to the mechanic? The tomato seller, people who do not receive salary, who earn, their wages on the street. What happened to them? So this strike is just too early. If I were them, I'll wait a little while.
If you were Labour, what would you do too?
Continue the discussion.
Yeah. So
give them, the president said the minimum wages be reviewed. Give it time. When do we hope to hear from you, Mr. President?
Do you know the position of Labour? That they were discussing 530 and the price went to 610. And that's the question.
Yeah, but the president does not control the price. The market forces control the price. This is what is expected.
All right.
Now,
so here's the point. Let me tell you. You see, I agree with him in part, but the idea of exonerating the president is the very problem we had in Buhari's government. Like, the president is not in control of it. The president is not responsible for it. Even himself said, we know this tax we embrace it. We must accept everything Nigerians say. That was what impressed me, to say, okay, President Tinubu will welcome criticism. And it is our own criticism of policies that is making him to make some changes that is for the better. Otherwise, we'll be talking about the 8,000. But Nigerians cried. Now, let me tell you something about labor. I did negotiation training right up to United States Institute of Peace. One key issue in negotiation is everybody find where he can leverage on as a bargaining chip. The power of labor is the strike. And when my brother said that the poor are the ones that will suffer, not the rich, there's an adage that says, if poor man no eat, rich man no go sleep. And mentioning barbers, this labor will not affect barbers. It's an established trade unions like government workers, and these are the ones that are going to be on labor. So the person to suffer is the government. But let me tell you something about strike. And I want to advise the police, because I saw some subliminal threat. When I saw a statement, the police said that we will not tolerate any violent protest. They are laying the foundation so that when the labor people go there, probably some element will come in between them and try to create problem. Then they will now say, this is the reason. Let me tell you why government must avoid anything conflict. Look at Africa. Anything that will create conflict in the mass is avoided. But let me tell you why I personally don't encourage strike. But this strike is the only way what they are asking for will be achieved. It's the only way the government will pay attention. If the government if you were to flip it, and the government is in the position of the labor,
is it not too early in the life of a government to be having street protests?
So that means there's a poor negotiating skills. Poor negotiating skills. They have been meeting every time.
All right. Because I want us to anchor on this minister. I'm not done. I'm not satisfied with the conversation on the ministers. Because again, Bola Tinubu is the man elected, and Kashim Shettima, they were both on the bill, but they are not the ones that are going to get the job done alone. They need a team, but the characters and the elements that will form government are also very important. So you look at what we have right now, the 28 men and women on that list. What do you make? You think that Bola Tinubu has a strong team?
I will address it in two perspectives. Number one, we talk about the capacity of the individuals. We have 7 women on the list, and I know 6 of them. I know they will do very well. Talk about party loyalty, they check the box. You talk about working hard for the president, they check the box.
So party come first.
You talk about their capacity, they check the box. So these women, Dr. Betta, Uju, Imam, all of them, they're going to do a great job. Now, I said, if I was elected president, and as much as I advocate for the youth, and I'm going to have a lot of youth there, I'm still going to have some of these old faces. You still just have to have them. We're not just going to kick everybody aside. So that's where people like the El-Rufai, Governor Wike, and Umai did a great job when he was governor. Wike did a great job. Even if it's just the project he did, we have to give him something. In the place of where everybody is blind, the man with one eye becomes the king. He did good as a governor. So that's where you have those pockets. In terms of category, going back to the promise of the president, the only thing I see on the ministerial is the fact that women asked for 35%. In my opinion, the women are excited. They got 7 already. The president promised government of national unity. Now you see people from other parties.
No, there's no national unity there.
There's, of course.
It is the renegades of other parties. That's not national unity. National unity means he will sit with Atiku and Obi and say, nominate people to us. That's national unity.
But the president called over.
You send somebody to destroy PDP, and then you carry him and appoint him. Come on, let's be serious.
My dear brother, you and I, we have been debating here, and we've been, brothers, even though we have been opposition, probably after now we'll go on a nice dinner. But on this one, the president called and said, come, let us discuss. You guys were busy wanting to call.
No, you have to wait until after the court before you form the government of national unity.
Okay.
That's how democracy is developed. Let me respond to this point. You will appreciate that.
Let me quickly finish.
Okay.
See, I love fair criticism. People are complaining that the president took long to release the ministerial list. Now you're saying he should have waited long. If he had sent a letter to National Assembly and asked for more time, I'm sure people would have crucified him. How else will he wait? You guys were busy with court. He kept saying, come, let us talk, let us discuss. The guys who came, who were willing, they are there. So as far as we are concerned, we have a government of national unity. My only bone of contention is I don't see youth there. I only see one youth. I'm expecting the next list that we are going to have at least 6, 7 youths because the president promised us 9 cabinet positions.
There are a few youths there.
No.
That's
the only one.
No, it's 41.
41. One youth.
Better Edu is 36.
Better Edu is a woman. She represents the women. She's going to be advocating for the women. I promise you.
Stella Okotete is 38.
They're going to be speaking. Look at the screening. When Betta was speaking...
Musawa is 44 or 43.
They are women. When Betta was speaking yesterday, you could see her passion. She was talking about what she would do for the women, the girls, the women. That's who they represent. I will be disappointed if the president has not told us he's not going to give us more youth. But it seems as if some party members, some people are just driving this narrative that these women are the youth. They are representing the women, and they are going to do such a great job representing the women. When they went to see the president, they went as women. When women went there, when it was time for the youth to go, they did not join the youth to go. So the women got their percentage, 25 thus far. I mean, if they don't get any more, they should be excited. But we just need more youth there. That's the only thing we should be clamoring. National unity, the boss is checked. I think the president has done a great job thus far.
Mr. Boala will send us away from the studio for his comment.
With respect to the youth, if there is anybody in Nigeria today who began a constitutional reform for minimum requirement for the youth, I did it under the leadership of Senator Omo Agege. In fact, out of the 15 bills that he has sponsored in the National Assembly, 10 of them touch on youth and women. That's a different conversation. We're talking about intensive care unit. It's not about how many youth, how many women, how many party members. You ask the proper question. Can they get the job done? What are the jobs? Deal with economic problem. Deal with hunger. Deal with insecurity. When you come to this issue, you have to get people who are top-notch. My understanding of screening, except if something has changed, the executive start is on. You send letter to the relevant security agencies, EFCC for corruption changes. Some of these people that were screened have EFCC investigating them. Some were being prosecuted when they became governor. It was halted. Now they finished serving as governors. The prosecution is supposed to continue. And when you get anybody either being investigated or is being prosecuted into government as a minister, everything around his prosecution stop. If care is not taken, they will even destroy the case in that.
You know what a friend and I were, the conversation we had earlier today was that we thought that we're going to get a Nigerian who help Coca-Cola in somewhere around the world to fix a financial problem, to come to Nigeria, someone who has done something big in security, to come and fix names IT, someone who is being in Silicon Valley to come and change the digital economy. And those are the kind of names that Nigerians were expecting. But well, it's up to Nigerians. They are the ones in Nigerian Silicon Valley. Thank you so much.
We have 13 more to go.
Well, 11 more actually. 11 still left out. Hopefully they go to 42. Yeah. Maybe 14 people.
I think
there's nothing new. Those people, those 11 have already been screened secretly.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Daniel Boala, Nicholas Felix, a very wonderful conversation tonight. Thanks so much, gentlemen. But that's our show for today. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.